Okay, guys, today let's talk about absolute value and how to write an equation in absolute value. So in our TOC, this is going to be writing absolute value equations. And this is going to be on page 39. So oftentimes when you're going to be asked to write an absolute value equation, you're going to be provided with the solution set, and you're going to have to develop the absolute value equation that goes along with it. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to page 39. I'm going to do it on a separate paper here. We are writing absolute value equations. Okay, we're going to go right to the steps for accomplishing this. I'm going to leave some extra space here because some of the example questions are going to take up a little bit of room. So step number one, we're going to put an MP below that. We have to find the midpoint. And some examples, the midpoint is going to be provided for us in the actual word problem, and other times we will have to locate it ourselves. The steps to locate the midpoint are: step A, count the distance between the two answers. So remember, they're usually going to provide you the solution set, and you're going to have to count the distance between that. The way you do that is you do largest number minus smallest number. Step B is to divide this by 2. So whatever you get in step A, you're going to divide by 2 in step B. And step C of finding the midpoint, you're going to add this to the smallest number. So whatever you get in step B, you're going to add that to the smallest number. So you need to do those three things to be able to get your midpoint. So that's kind of all part of the first step. So step 2, we're going to call that D. And the reason is this is the distance. And we need these items to be able to build our formula in step 3. So distance is equal to the answer to step B in finding the midpoint. And then step 3, write the equation using the following formula or process. X plus -1 times the midpoint equal to the distance. And this should provide us with our answer or the equation. If they ask us to actually solve the equation, then we can go back to our steps for solving the equation and do just that. So an example to look at. We're told a runner runs the first leg of the race in 52 seconds, plus or minus 2 seconds. Find slowest and fastest times. So in this example, they tell us basically the average, right, or the expectation is 52 seconds. And usually that score, other scores or ranges of scores that this person has are 2 seconds slower or 2 seconds faster. That's what that plus minus means. So they've actually provided us the midpoint here. They've told us the midpoint is 52 seconds. And they've told us the distance. The distance is 2 seconds. So when I write this equation, I have x plus -1. Those things aren't going to change. The midpoint in this instance is 52, and the distance is 2. So then I simplify the math where I can. So I'm going to need to simplify right here. And I get the absolute value of x minus 52 equals 2. And if I went ahead and solved this, I would have my two cases. Should be a negative. So I'm going to add 52 to both sides in both cases. So 52 plus 2 is going to give me 54. And 52 plus -2 is going to be 50. So he runs 52 seconds in the race plus or minus 2 seconds. So his slowest time would be that he ran the race in 54 seconds. His fastest time that he ran it in 50 seconds. Second example is where they just give us a solution set. They say, write an absolute value for this, I'm just going to say it's SS, and it is -6 and 2. A -6 and 2. So here they've given us the answer. That would be like saying, -2 doesn't work for a race, but how much does someone have in their bank account? Well, they have between -6 and $2, right? So now I'm going to have to follow my steps. A is count the distance between the two answers by taking the largest number and subtracting the smallest number. So the largest number is 2, and I'm going to subtract a -6. So when I do that, this double dash, remember, becomes positive, and 2 plus 6 is going to give me 8. In part B, I need to take from part A answer and divide it by 2. Here I would get 4. And C, I need to add this to the smallest number to determine the midpoint. So I'm going to take my answer, 4, and add it to the smallest number, -6. So -2 is my midpoint. The distance is the answer to B up above. So this was my answer to B. So D is going to equal 4. And now I'm going to substitute what I came up for the midpoint and what I have for the distance in the formula. X plus -1 times the midpoint equals D. So absolute value of X plus -1 times the midpoint, I have -2. End of the absolute value is equal to the distance of 4. And here I just am going to clean that up to be X, absolute value of X plus 2, because -1 times a -2 is going to be +2, equals 4. And that is how you write absolute value equations. It's pretty, straightforward. You're finding two things, you have steps and formulas to do that, and then you're putting it in the absolute value.